Hey, everybody, this is Bob Carpenter with the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, and you are listening to the Midwest Mixtape Podcast.
Lazy yellow moon coming up tonight, shining through the trees. Crickets are singing and lightning bugs are floating on the breeze. Baby, get ready. Across the field where the creek turns back by the old stone road, I'm gonna take you to a special place that nobody knows. Baby, get ready. Fishin' in the dark, lying on our backs and counting the stars where the bluegrass grows. Down by the river in the full moonlight, we'll be falling in love in the middle of the night, just moving slow.
Hi, and welcome to the Midwest Mixtape Podcast, live from the Barn Studio. You got the Mox here, and I'm joined online right now with Mr. Bob Carpenter from the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. Bob, how are we today?
I'm good, Chad. How you doing?
Doing good. I know that Midwest Mixtape Podcast, that's a lot of M's and P's, and it's a little bit of a tongue twister. Before we went on air here, you did a little station ID for us, and we appreciate that. But what's the one that you got that I can't do?
Irish wristwatch.
Irish wristwatch. Yeah, that takes some thought to it. I'm not very good. Communications wasn't my skill there, so maybe I should pick a different career.
Perfect.
Bob, we're really excited. Saturday, September 14th at T-Mobile Center in Kansas City, Missouri, the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band with Hank Williams. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, let's see. We've done a show with him already this year, and it's a lot of fun being around Hank. He's doing some great shows. I know he didn't tour for a little while, and he's back out there killing it. So it's really fun for us to be out there playing with him.
And this is part of All the Good Times, the farewell tour. What does this What does this mean, Bob? Talk us through this retirement.
This is the beginning of the end. We figured out that we're not going to be able to do, 80 shows a year and haul our butts around on tour buses, until we're like 90 years old. So we didn't want to just one day hang it up and not have a chance to thank our fans and sort of say goodbye to everybody. So that's what the idea is behind this. We're going to try to get to a lot of different areas of the country, and, we can't do it all in 1 year. So we're going to do it, a section at a time, and we're going to come through once. And if people, want to see the band one last time, come out and say hi and goodbye. We're gonna do a show for them. If they want to be within like driving distance of where we're going to be. So that's sort of the idea. We got a lot of territory to cover, and we're doing about 70 shows, 60 shows this year, and we'll continue on next year and just go to different areas of the country and do this thing.
So this is, I guess, the last traditional tour, but can we expect performances in the future, maybe one-offs or single shows or special events, or are you guys fully hanging it up?
No. We're never going to quit playing music. I mean, individually or together. I mean, that's impossible. It's just we can't continue on with sort of like what we've been doing. We've toured every single year for 58 straight years, and it's just like, who knows what's going to happen next year? Or, it's impossible to tell. I mean, back in 2020, we all went home after doing 4 or 5 shows in March. We didn't know if we'd ever get together and play again live, and that was not a great feeling without just sort of like going, well, this is done, not be able to celebrate it. So because of the pandemic, we just didn't know what was going to happen. Nobody did. So we're acknowledging that we're getting towards the end of our career here, and we just want to go out and, do it this way, do it our way.
This has been your life and your career for decades. What emotions come with this tour? What emotions come to maybe performing in these cities for the last time?
Well, I don't know. I think we were more emotional about it when we thought we weren't going to be able to play after 2020. Right now, it's hard to wrap your head around it because we're grinding it. We're just touring. We're doing a different city every day. And when you're doing that, you got to keep your mind on the immediate thing. You got to go keep yourself in shape, get some exercise, eat right, make sure that you're getting where you need to go on time and doing good shows, because it's hard to tell when exactly anything's going to end. You know what I'm saying? If I was to ask you what's going to happen in your life a year or two from now, it's really hard to say. You know what I mean? We thought we'd be hanging this thing up after about, 30 years,
What do you hope is the lasting legacy for the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band? Is there a feeling that comes with that you hope people take away, that a certain thing about you guys?
Well, I just think that, people always mark the times in their life that they were listening to our music. But I think the lasting legacy, a lot of it's going to be the people that come after us that have listened to our music that we've maybe inspired to continue on with their careers. Like the people that came before us did. We had people, that were traditional artists that inspired the band to make Circle One and make that record with those legacy artists. And then on Circle Two, we had a lot of guys that came on like Jerry Douglas and Sam Bush and Mark O'Connor, who played with us on that record, who cut their teeth on the first Circle record. So you just keep handing it down, and you hope that, people that love music and want to make a career out of it can take something away from what you've done before them.
Is it a bit of sense of passing the torch? Because I want to talk about you guys' record a couple years ago, Dirt Does Dylan, and the times are changing. Specifically that song, you had some players and some singers that have been around for a while, Roseanne Cash, Steve Earle, but then also Jason Isbell, which I know you've done some shows with, and the War on Treaties. So it's a little bit of the old school and a mix of the new school. Was that the idea behind that pairing?
We just love making records with people that we admire, that are fun to play music with, and old or new, young or old, it doesn't really matter. It's just we just reach out to people. What happens is we do our touring, we have acts that we play with on the same billing, especially in the summertime when we're outdoor on big stages. And we worked with Warren Treaty, up in Telluride, and they've sat in with us on stage. Most of the acts that we play with, a lot of times, we'll have them come out with us at the end of the show and do a song or two with us. And we've developed those relationships, and we just thought, well, let's give them a call and see if they'd like to contribute to this song. And it worked out great. Although it was really hard because it all happened during the pandemic. Our producer actually flew to New York, where Steve Earle was, to try to get into the studio to record his voice on that song. And he got there and had to hole up in a hotel for 5 days because somebody in the studio before he got there had COVID. So it's like,
oh, wow.
It was not, if that album was supposed to take 10 days, it took a year and a half.
The decision to do Dylan, how did that come about? And is Bob Dylan the greatest songwriter to ever live?
Well, that is subjective, but I'd have to say he's certainly most prolific. And yes, I guess you could say he's the greatest. A lot of people acknowledge that he is. We just got done last year going to the Dylan Center in Tulsa, which was really amazing to go through all that stuff. It's a wonderful experience if anybody gets there and wants to go. But that came about because, when we were younger, everybody knew Dylan songs, and Jeff was a huge fan. And we had been in the studio with this configuration of our touring band, and we went, well, what could be easier than let's pick an artist and go into the studio and do our take, reimagine their songs, our take on their songs. And we thought, well, who has a bigger catalog than Dylan to choose from? And nobody. So we decided to go in and take a look at his material and see what fit us and how we could put harmonies to his songs that didn't have harmonies and use our acoustic instruments and stuff like that. So that's sort of how that came about. And we had to wade through a lot of material, and it took us a while to narrow everything down, but that's what we ended up doing.
Is one of the most rewarding things about your career seeing your influence on modern Americana and some of the country music scenes?
Yeah, it's always great to support people that are coming after you and hopefully inspire them. And we get a lot of people that are opening acts that, have listened to our music and are inspired. And, and it happened for us, and we'd like to continue that tradition.
I think one of the things that's interesting about you guys is a lot of people don't connect Bless the Broken Road with you guys. You know, they obviously it was wildly popular as a Rascal Flatts hit, but I think Jeff wrote it like in maybe 93 or 94. You guys released it. And tell me if it's true that the record label said, we don't hear a hit on this album. And then, you know, years later, the Rascal Flatts do it and it becomes something else. Is there any truth behind that story?
There's a little bit of truth, but I can see why they didn't want to do that, because we recorded that song, I think, on an album called Acoustic, and it was back in, I think, 95, 96. And it was a version that I sat and played on piano and sang, and then we added some acoustic instruments too. But it never sat, back in those days, in the mid-90s, it was nothing that they would have ever played on radio. On country music. It just wasn't produced that way, you know, and it sat around for like 9 years, and the Flats heard it and they produced it like it was going to be a radio record, and that's why it was a hit for them. But we still do it on stage. I'm still singing it on stage. We do a different version of it now. Just Jeff playing acoustic guitar, me singing, and Jimmie Fadden comes out and plays some harmonica on it. But we've been doing it every show, always have.
Is timing important when it comes to that stuff, the release, and, you know, maybe is the audience maybe not ready, or like you're talking about, maybe the production was a little bit different, or the instrumentation? Is timing important? And when you guys release records and songs, and even like, you know, we're going to probably get into a few of these hits, is timing important when it comes to that stuff?
Well, I think it's important as far as what radio plays. We've never really considered that too much when we're making our records. We just do what seems like it works for us, you know, and we work with producers, and, you know, we talk about stuff as we put songs together. I mean, obviously we didn't take radio into consideration when we were doing the acoustic album. But I think, you know, if you look through the decades and what's being played on radio, obviously, stuff that's being produced now wouldn't have been played back in the 70s and vice versa, you know? There was a time when people on country radio had a hard time playing songs because, oh my gosh, they had strings on them, you know? Or, oh my gosh, what's that? That's a pedal steel guitar. What the heck is that thing, you know? It's like somebody was banging on a synthesizer. So, you know, it takes a while for these things to morph and evolve and take hold. And it's, you know, it's always, you got to be right time at the right place, you know, as far as what you're doing. But in our minds, it's always more important to not be a follower, to just do what you want to do and try to lead the way a little bit. Because right before we did Circle One, how many people were putting together compilation albums with lots of different artists? Nobody. You know, now all of a sudden it's like everybody's, you know, as the decades have gone on, everybody's singing and playing with everybody else on records, which is a great thing.
We're kind of talking about the mid-90s here. Let's go back to 1987's Hold On, your seventh studio record. You released 3 singles on it, but I would say one in particular, it's still, I would say, your most popular, definitely your most streamed song, and that's Fishin In The Dark. What do you remember about cutting that record, and why do you think it resonates with so many people? Well,
I guess fishing's really popular, but that's not what the song's about. But that what the song's about is really popular too. So the thing I remember about it is that we've recorded about 400 songs in our career, and that is the only song that we cut in the studio that we went, that's a hit. That was the only one we thought was a hit. You know, now Jim Photoglo, who's playing bass in our band, who we've written a lot of songs with over the years, he wrote that song, and all I remember is we just knew it at the time. You know, I heard a statistic the other day that if that song right now, this week, was eligible to chart, it would, because of the recurrent airplay, it would be number 57 on the country charts right now. After what, you know, 40 years, 39 years? If you were in your, 30s when that song came out, you'd be on Medicare right now.
Bob Carpenter here with the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. Bob, I know your time's limited, but we are looking forward to Saturday, September 14th at T-Mobile Center in Kansas City, Missouri with Hank Williams. And then if you're listening to this and you're in one of these areas where the tour is going to be, All the Good Times, the farewell tour, Bob, really appreciate your time today and looking forward to connecting with you when you get into town.
Dad, I appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, man.
Okay, bye-bye.
Yellow moon coming up tonight, shining through the trees. Crickets are singing and lightning bugs are floating on the breeze. old stone road. I'm gonna take you to a special place that nobody knows.